Captain Samir Rahman had spent years mastering the skies above Abu Dhabi, trusted with hundreds of lives every time he pushed the throttle forward, while Aisha Rahman built a peaceful home believing her husband was a man of honor, and Elena Markovich devoted 7 secret years to a future she thought was real. But when a single message surfaced at 30,000 feet, exposing promises, lies, and hidden meetings across 3 countries, their carefully balanced lies collided in midair, setting off a chain of betrayal, obsession, and fear that would end not with a safe landing, but with a disappearance, an international murder investigation, and a deadly truth no one saw coming. Captain Samir Rahman was known among his colleagues as calm under pressure. Based in Abu Dhabi, he had built a strong career over 12 years, flying wide-body aircraft across continents. He handled storms, delays, and technical scares with steady focus. Younger pilots looked up to him, and senior management trusted him with the most demanding routes. Passengers often thanked him while leaving the aircraft, unaware of the personal storm quietly building behind his composed expression. At home, Samir lived in a modern villa on the outskirts of the city. The house reflected success: clean white walls, large windows, and framed photos from family vacations in Switzerland, Turkey, and Malaysia. His wife, Aisha, managed the home while raising their 2 children. She admired his dedication and defended his long absences as part of the job. Every departure was marked by a quick airport goodbye and a promise to return with gifts from another country. Samir maintained a strict routine. He exercised early in the morning, reviewed flight manuals carefully, and kept his uniforms perfectly pressed. His neighbors saw a disciplined professional who balanced work and family with ease. On social media, he appeared to be a devoted husband and proud father, posting images of birthdays and school events. Yet beneath the polished surface was a growing distance. His long-haul schedules gave him privacy that few questioned. Nights spent in luxury hotels blurred into one another. Time zones shifted, but his double life remained carefully synchronized. The sky was where he felt most in control. On the ground, however, his carefully built world rested on a fragile foundation that was already beginning to crack. 7 years earlier, Samir had traveled to Singapore for an advanced aviation safety program. The training lasted 3 weeks and brought together aviation professionals from different countries. It was there that he met Elena Markovich, a flight operations coordinator assigned to assist international crews. She was intelligent, organized, and confident in her role. She understood the pressures pilots faced and admired the discipline required to command an aircraft. Their first interactions were professional and brief, limited to training schedules and flight documentation. Over time, casual conversations during coffee breaks became longer discussions about travel, ambition, and personal dreams. Being far from home made everything feel temporary and less complicated. Samir presented himself as a man trapped in a distant, failing marriage. He described loneliness, emotional distance, and a life that felt incomplete. When the training ended, most participants returned home and moved on. Samir did not. He extended his stay by a few days, claiming additional simulator hours. During that time, the connection between them shifted from friendship to something more serious. After returning to Abu Dhabi, he kept in touch with Elena through private messaging apps and late-night video calls. His flight schedules gave him frequent stopovers in Asia and Europe, creating opportunities to meet her. Hotel rooms became their private world, separate from reality. Elena believed she was building a future with him. She trusted his promises that he was preparing to end his marriage. Years passed, and their relationship grew deeper. Elena's celebrated anniversaries, sent thoughtful gifts, and made quiet sacrifices for a man who divided his life carefully. Samir convinced himself he could maintain both worlds without consequences. He controlled every detail, or so he believed. But 7 years of secrets create cracks that cannot stay hidden forever. The flight from Abu Dhabi to London had been smooth from takeoff. The sky was clear, and the aircraft climbed steadily to cruising altitude. Inside the cockpit, the atmosphere was calm and professional. Instruments glowed softly in the dim light, and the steady hum of the engines created a familiar rhythm. Samir moved through his routine checks with confidence, reviewing fuel data, weather updates, and route adjustments. Hours into the flight, while most passengers slept under dimmed cabin lights, Samir reached for his tablet to review operational notices sent through the airline's internal system. Among routine updates, a personal notification appeared on the corner of the screen. It was connected to a cloud service he had once linked across devices for convenience. The subject line of the message made his chest tighten. It was from Elena. Attached were dozens of photos spanning years. Hotel balconies overlooking foreign cities, quiet dinners during layovers, selfies taken in private moments. There were scanned copies of flight itineraries and screenshots of promises he had made. The final attachment was a scheduled email addressed not only to him, but to his wife and the airline's corporate office. At that same moment, thousands of miles away, Aisha's phone lit up in the quiet of their bedroom. The cloud notification synchronized instantly. Curious, she opened the folder. Image after image appeared on her screen. Dates matched his supposed business trips. Locations aligned with the souvenirs he had once brought home. In the cockpit, Samir's steady composure began to crack. His breathing grew shallow, though his voice remained controlled when speaking to air traffic control. For the first time in years, he realized his perfectly timed double life was no longer under his control. Aisha did not break down when she saw the images. Instead, she became very still. Years of trust were collapsing in front of her, yet her reaction was quiet and controlled. She transferred every photo, message, and document into a private folder. She made backups on an external drive and stored it in a locked drawer. By morning, her shock had turned into focus. She contacted a private investigator recommended by a family friend. The investigator specialized in financial tracing and digital evidence. Within days, a structured review of Samir's travel records began. Flight schedules were compared with hotel reservations and credit card statements. Patterns quickly emerged. His layovers were longer than required. Certain cities appeared repeatedly. There were restaurant charges for 2 people in places far from his assigned crew accommodations. The investigator uncovered a separate bank account opened under a business consultancy name. Money had been transferred regularly, often just days before Samir's trips to Singapore or nearby destinations. Expensive gifts were purchased through international vendors and shipped to an address that did not belong to any airline office. Meanwhile, Elena had begun her own investigation. After stumbling upon family vacation photos online, she realized the truth about Samir's marriage. The timeline did not match his promises. The dream of a future together was built on lies. Unaware of each other at first, both women were gathering evidence against the same man. One sought clarity and protection for her family. The other sought answers and accountability for years of deception. What Samir believed was a hidden arrangement was now under scrutiny from 2 directions. The structure of his secret life was no longer stable. It was being examined piece by piece, and the deeper they looked, the darker it became. When Samir returned to Abu Dhabi after the London flight, the atmosphere at home felt unfamiliar. The house was quiet, but not peaceful. Aisha moved through her routine with cold precision. There were no arguments, no visible anger, only distance. Samir sensed the shift immediately. Small details unsettled him. Family photos rearranged, his study desk cleared, his spare phone missing from its usual drawer. At work, the pressure tightened. Within days, he was called to a formal review meeting at the airline headquarters. An anonymous complaint had been submitted to the ethics committee. The report included travel timelines, screenshots of private messages, and evidence suggesting misuse of company scheduling flexibility for personal travel extensions. The airline treated the matter seriously. Pilots were expected to maintain strict professional conduct, especially those commanding long-haul international flights. While management reviewed the complaint, Elena disappeared from his daily routine. Her messages stopped. Her social media accounts were deactivated. Attempts to contact her through alternate channels failed. The silence was heavier than anger. It signaled something irreversible. Samir attempted to regain control. He reviewed his financial accounts, deleted older communication threads, and tried to access shared cloud folders, only to find passwords changed. His carefully managed digital world was slipping beyond reach. Rumors began circulating quietly among colleagues. Schedules were adjusted. He was temporarily removed from premium routes, pending internal assessment. Though not suspended, he felt the warning signs closing in. For 7 years, he had balanced precision in the sky with deception on the ground. Now both spaces felt unstable. His marriage stood on the edge of collapse, his career under scrutiny, and the woman who once trusted him had vanished without explanation. 2 weeks after Elena stopped responding, a missing person report was filed in Singapore. Her colleagues grew concerned when she failed to report to work without notice. She had always been punctual and dependable. When authorities entered her apartment, they found no signs of forced entry. The place was tidy, almost untouched, except for a chair slightly out of place near the dining table. Her passport was missing, but most of her personal belongings remained. Her phone had not been active since the night she was last seen. Security footage from the building showed Elena entering late in the evening. She appeared calm, carrying her handbag and a small folder. No footage clearly showed her leaving. A service exit camera had been under maintenance that week, leaving a blind spot investigators could not immediately fill. Attention shifted quickly to her recent communications. Forensic analysis of her laptop revealed draft emails addressed to an airline ethics board and to Aisha. The attachments included photographs, flight records, and financial transfers. The drafts had been created hours before her disappearance. Immigration data showed that Samir had been rostered for a flight to Singapore around the same time. Official records indicated he swapped that assignment with another pilot, citing fatigue. However, credit card data revealed a short private booking through a partner airline arriving in Singapore within the same window. Authorities examined rental records near Elena's residence. A vehicle had been hired under a newly formed business name linked indirectly to Samir's financial trail. Toll booth cameras captured the vehicle traveling toward the Marina district late that night. The timeline narrowed. The coincidence grew difficult to ignore. What first appeared to be a personal scandal was shifting into something far darker, with international investigators beginning to coordinate across borders. Months passed with little public progress, but investigators continued working quietly behind the scenes. Financial analysts traced the shell company connected to the rental vehicle and uncovered a network of transactions moving through offshore accounts. The pattern showed deliberate layering of funds, designed to hide origins and destinations. Each transfer circled back to accounts either controlled or previously accessed by Samir. The breakthrough came unexpectedly during renovation work at a private marina storage facility. Contractors removing old partitions noticed a sealed container hidden behind stacked equipment. The unit had been rented months earlier under a corporate name that matched the shell company investigators were already examining. Authorities were notified immediately. Inside the container were personal items identified as Elena's: jewelry she wore frequently, a leather-bound planner, and a distinctive watch gifted years earlier. Forensic teams conducted detailed analysis. Traces of dried blood were found on fabric within the container. DNA testing confirmed the blood matched Elena's profile. Surveillance from marina entrance showed the rental vehicle entering the facility late at night during the time frame of her disappearance. Though the driver's face was not clearly visible, vehicle records tied it back to the same false business registration. Digital forensics added another layer. Location data extracted from Samir's secondary phone placed it near the Marina district during those critical hours. International warrants were coordinated discreetly. Upon landing in Abu Dhabi after completing a scheduled flight, Samir was met by authorities at the gate. Passengers disembarked unaware of what was unfolding just beyond the aircraft door. Presented with financial trails, location data, surveillance timestamps, and forensic evidence, the narrative of coincidence unraveled. The evidence pointed toward careful planning rather than panic. The final stage of the investigation brought together evidence from 3 countries. Digital records, financial transfers, aviation rosters, and surveillance footage were organized into a single timeline. Prosecutors reconstructed the final 48 hours before Elena vanished. Data showed multiple encrypted searches related to storage rentals and maritime disposal methods conducted from a device linked to Samir's secondary account. Though partially deleted, fragments were recovered by forensic specialists. Immigration logs confirmed he entered Singapore on a short, unofficial trip that overlapped precisely with Elena's last known movements. Rideshare records and toll data mapped a clear route between her apartment and the Marina District. Forensic analysts testified that the blood evidence recovered from the storage container could not have been transferred accidentally. The quantity and pattern indicated violent contact. Investigators concluded that Elena had planned to expose the affair publicly. Draft complaints addressed to the airline and supporting documentation suggested she intended to reveal everything within days. The evidence pointed toward a meeting arranged to prevent that exposure. What occurred inside the apartment was pieced together through digital silence, interrupted device signals, and the sudden halt of all outgoing communication from Elena's accounts. During the trial, the prosecution argued that reputation and career preservation became motives stronger than fear of consequences. The defense attempted to challenge the chain of evidence, but the digital footprint was extensive and interconnected across jurisdictions. After weeks of proceedings, the court delivered a guilty verdict for premeditated murder. Samir's aviation license was permanently revoked. His once respected name within airline circles became synonymous with betrayal and calculated violence.